In this video, we're going to talk about some common print awareness concepts that we need to teach children. And these are all concepts that they need to know in order to help them get ready to read. So that's kind of the point of why we teach these skills and why they're so important overall for children to know them. So what I want you to do is make sure that you print your handout that's at the top. These are the other pages. Here's the first one. And have them ready with you while I talk about the different books. In this particular video, we're going to talk about the first 4 of the print awareness skills. And I'm going to separate each of them, but you're going to see that a lot of them overlap, and a lot of the skills can kind of be taught at the same time depending on what your focus is on. But you can honestly use a lot of the same techniques and strategies to teach all of the skills. So what I want you to do is on the handout, I have kind of what the meaning is for each of them. And then I want you to write down why it's important. And I gave you a title of the book for each of them that we're going to cover. And then I want you to write down how you can use the book to support that skill. And again, you're going to find that there's a lot of overlap and it's a lot of the same strategies. But again, these are all really important skills that we need to know that I think we often take for granted because we know how to pick up a book. We know how to pick up a book and start reading it. We understand, the cover and to go front to back. We know to go left to right. But these are all skills that children need to know and need to learn. So the first one on the form is differentiates print from pictures. And what that means is to understand basically the difference between the print and the illustrations or the pictures on the page. And why that's so important is because children really need to understand that it's the print, it's the text that actually say the words and tell the story. And it's the illustrations or the pictures that back it up and support it. Now, unless you're doing a wordless book, then it would be the illustrations and the print and the pictures rather that tell the story. So for this one, we're going to use the book If You Give a Moose a Muffin, because these are one of my favorite series of books. And I wanted to point out these kind of books to you too, and these are big books. And big books are really cool to use if you're doing whole group, when you're doing this kind of instruction, because if you have a group of 15, 20 children, it makes the print and the pictures obviously bigger for everybody to see. So we're going to use If You Give a Moose a Muffin. And one of the things that you can do to help support, and you can actually do it with the title. I'm going to open it up and go right to the page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something called tracking. And tracking is basically when you run your finger under the print and you're reading the words at the same time. So you're showing them so many different of these skills. That's why I said we're going to connect a lot of them. But for understanding the difference between the print and the pictures, I would tell the children, oh, here are the words. This tells us the story. And these pictures are going to back up what the words say. So let's read. If you give a moose a muffin. Oh, look, he's giving the moose the muffin. He's throwing it out. See in the picture. And you're just pointing it out. So you're pointing to the words. And then you can show how the print backs it up. So pointing out and tracking is one of the strategies that you can use. And so you're basically just kind of telling the children that's what you're doing. Here are the words. Let's read them. If you give a moose a muffin. It's kind of hard, but this is leaning on here. So that's the first one. Now, on number 2 is understanding print directionality. And there's 3 different parts to that. And it's understanding that we read the left page and then the right page. And then building off of that, you're going to understand that we read left to right. And then that we read top to bottom when you have more paragraphs. I have one that has more text in it. So when you have more text on a page, to understand that you go top to bottom. So for understanding print directionality, you build upon those skills. And again, just by using tracking, it shows children. So what we could do, and obviously this skill is important. So why is it important to literacy reading? Is because this is a skill that we really need to have for reading and writing. You need to understand for sequencing that you start from left to right, and that when you get to the end of a sentence that you need to go below. So it's a lot of those skills, and those are skills that we need to know for so many different things, not just for reading, but we need to know that when we're writing. We need to know these skills for math when we do math problems as well. So some things that we can do is we can point out to the children, when I just turn the page up, there's 2 pages on here, and you can do a pre-assessment. Does anybody know which one I should start with? And ask them, get that pre-assessment piece in there. And that's going to give you an idea if, they say over here by the refrigerator, then you know that's a skill that they're still working on. And then you just teach them. Oh, we're going to start over here, and you can use the words left. We're going to start on the left side. He'll want some jam to go with it. Oh, and let's see if he gets some jam. So you'll bring out some of your mother's homemade blackberry jam. And just by pointing it out and tracking and showing the children, they're going to understand it and get it from that experience. And really just pointing it out and telling them what you're doing. And again, doing the tracking. So that kind of leads into number 3, the skill, which is identifying the top and bottom of the page. And what that means is when we see print on the page, that we need to understand that we read the top before we go to the bottom. And I don't have a book that has more than one paragraph on it. But basically, it's right here. Perfect. Perfect. So we're going to teach that skill, again, by tracking and pointing it out to the children. And again, this skill is important to understand for sequencing. If we start down here and then go up here, or here, and then here, and then here, the story isn't going to make sense. It's going to be out of order. It's going to be out of sequence. So it's not going to make sense to the children. So again, we're going to use the same strategies that we used before with tracking, and we're going to show them. Oh, I see, and you can point it out. I see separate words. We're always going to start up here at the top with these words. When he's finished eating the muffin, he'll want another, and another, and another. When they're all gone, he'll ask you to make more. And just pointing it out and using the experience. That's why these big books are so cool and really helpful to use when you're pointing out these tracking skills for children. And then the 4th one is knowing that print tells a story. And honestly, that's kind of just building off of number 1 of understanding the print, that the text and the pictures are separate. And you're doing that by, honestly, the way that you're doing that is by tracking and pointing it out and telling the story. And then we can tell the children that, the pictures add on to it, and we can tell more from the story by the pictures by adding on. But as we're tracking and pointing out the words and talking about the words, children are understanding that concept of number 4, that it's the print that's telling the story in these words. So that is skills 1 through 4. Again, using the big book, if you give a moose a muffin.